background as we go along. I hope so. Okay.
Okay, sure.
I'd like to begin by saying that tomorrow night is Rosh Chodesh Iyar, beginning of the month of Iyar, and according to the Mikubalim, the Kabbalists, Iyar, spelled Aleph Yud Yud Resh, is an acronym for Ani Hashem Rofecha. I am the Lord, your healer. And let us hope and pray that the coming month of Iyar will be a month of healing worldwide from the coronavirus. The first Rashi in our Parshat Tazriah, which is a quote actually from the Midrash. He quotes a Rav Simlai, who makes a very interesting observation. Rabbi Simlai says as follows: Kishem sheyitzirato shel adam achar kol behema chayav ha'of b'maseh bereshit, kach torato nitparsha achar torat behema chayav ha'of. What Rav Simlai is saying is that our Parshat Tazriah, immediately follows the end of Parshat Shmini. Parshat Shmini, we have a listing of the animals and the fish and the birds that are kosher or non-kosher. In the order of creation, the fifth day, the fish and the birds were created. And on the beginning of the sixth day, the animals and the creatures were created. And ultimately, man was created on the sixth day. So there's a certain sequence, a sequential order. The animals followed by man. And Rabbi Simlai points out that just as in the time of creation, you have the animals followed by man, so too in our Parsha, we have the animals that are mentioned in Parshat Shmini, the animals that are kosher with the split hooves and chew their cud, the fish that are kosher by virtue of their fins and scales, the long list of birds that are not kosher, and then following this, we have Isha ki Tazriah v'yalda zachar. We have the birth of man. So the creation sequence is parallel to the sequence in our portions of Shmini and Tazriah. Point. What is the point of this? What is Rabbi Simlai trying to teach us? What he's trying to say is that man is the crown of creation. Man is the ultimate goal of creation. Man is the Tselem Elokim, the image of God. Man is endowed with godlike qualities, with spirituality, with intelligence, the ability to choose between right and wrong. These are unique qualities that belong to the human being and that are shared with Hashem, as it says in Tehillim, you made him a little lower than the angels. In fact, one could say that man is the Tachlit HaBriyah, the whole purpose of creation. The world was created for the sake of man. And therefore, you have the creatures that come first, but the ultimate goal is to reach the creation of man. And that's what we have both in the story of creation in Bereshit, as well as the sequence in Parshat Shmini, as well as Parshat Tazriah. This seems to be the message of Rav Simlai, the greatness, the uniqueness, the glory of the human being. When we look at the Midrash in Vayikra Rabbah, we get an alternative perspective. The Midrash says as follows. The Midrash quotes two psukim and compares the two of them. One pasuk is in the very beginning of Parshat Tazriah. Adam yakriv mikem korban lashem. A man will bring mikem from you a sacrifice to Hashem. Adam ki yakriv mikem korban lashem. Later in the Parsha, we have another pasuk with the same two key words. Adam mikem ki hiyeh be'or b'saro. A man of you in which there is in the flesh, in the skin of his flesh, the signs of the tzarat. In other words, in both psukim, you have the Adam and the Mikem. But the two psukim are almost antithetical one to the other. The Adam ki akriv Mikem is the one who enters the Beit HaMikdash. He brings a sacrifice. He stands in the presence of Hashem. His sacrifice is called a korban in the sense of coming closer to Hashem. That shows the great dignity of the human being, his ability to enter the holy environment. But when we look at the other pasuk, Adam mikem ki yeh be'or b'saro, that a man of you who has in the skin of his flesh the signs of the tzarat, it's the very antithesis of the Adam ki akriv mikem. Here, the one who is stricken with tzarat is removed from the congregation. He's taken out of the congregation. Badad yeshev michutz lamachaneh. He's quarantined, literally quarantined. He can no longer be part of the community. He has to sit outside the camp. This is the great paradox of man. The lowliest of creatures, but at the same time, the loftiest of creatures. As the Midrash says elsewhere, that the fact that man was created last, in one sense, it's a compliment. You are the purpose for which everything else was created. But on the other hand, it's a warning. Because man, if you are not deserving, if you do not merit, remember that even the little mosquito was created before you. Don't think that you are so great. A tiny little mosquito was created before you. Rav Soloveitchik Zatzal gave a beautiful explanation of this Midrash that explains the words Adam and Mikem and the paradox of the two. He said as follows, Adam ki akriv mikem. When a person brings a sacrifice or a person brings himself near to Hashem, it's coming mikem. It's coming from within you. It's coming from within your own midst. It's coming from your innermost recesses. It's coming from your soul which is a ner Hashem, a light of Hashem. As it says, ki ner Hashem nishmat Adam. A man's soul is a burning flame. It's an unextinguishable flame. And as it says in the Tanya, that the human being possesses a neshama, a soul, which is a chelek eloka mimal mamash. Literally, it is a part of Hashem. That's one aspect of the human being. But the other aspect of the human being is Adam mikem ki yeh be'or b'saro. If he has tzarat in his flesh, that's only external. It's only from the outside. It's only skin deep. It's not part of his essence. It's only something that's external to him and can eventually be wiped away. What is this tzarat that we're talking about? What is tzarat? I'm loath to use the translation leprosy, which we find in almost all of the English translations, because tzarat is not leprosy. Leprosy was known as Hansen's disease. And leprosy is a contagious disease. Tzarat is not. There's no contagion. I can prove halachically that tzarat is not the leprosy that we read in the medical books. I can prove it in 7 ways. First of all, there's an anomaly that cannot be explained medically. If tzaraat were to break out in any part of the human body, the person would be rendered impure. But if the tzaraat would spread to the entire body, which means from head to toe, he is pure. He's tahor. This is not a medical situation. This is something else completely. The Kohen, who has to diagnose the tzaraat, may not come on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So if the question should arise on Shabbat and Yom Tov, does this individual have tzaraat or not? The Kohen postpones his visit until after Shabbat or after Yom Tov. And again, if we were talking about a contagious disease, there would be no delay. The Kohen would have to come immediately. Not only that, if let's say a chatan or a kala, bride or groom, were to have symptoms of the tzaraat, you don't call the Kohen to make the determination. You wait for the 7 days of celebration to finish. Only then does the Kohen come to diagnose. Another law pertaining to tzaraat is before the Kohen comes to the house to determine if there is tzaraat in the house or not. All of the furniture and the silverware and the pots, the pans, and the dishes are taken out of the house so that they don't become tameh, they don't become impure. Now, if we were concerned about a contagious disease, we would not want to remove everything, put it outside the house so that others might contract it as well. This is not a contagious disease. This is not Hansen's disease. Furthermore, what if the Kohen is in doubt? He simply cannot render a decision. I don't know, he says. Well, if we were talking about a medical condition such as leprosy, we would have to be more stringent. We would have to quarantine the person who is suffering from leprosy. But in our case, in the case of tzaraat, if there's doubt in the mind of the Kohen, then the person is rendered pure. He's pure and he's not impure. And finally, the laws of tzaraat only apply in Eretz Yisrael, not outside of Eretz Yisrael. And if we were talking about a contagious disease like coronavirus, it would make no difference in what country you live. The laws would apply. So from all of this, what do we see? We see that we're not talking about a medical disease. We're talking about a moral disease, a spiritual disease. And this is indicated.
Reuven, I have a question. Where is it determined that it's only within Israel that tzaraat is, that the laws go by tzaraat and not outside?
It's in the Talmud.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the law. That is the law.
It says it. It specifies it, or it's a definition of something else? No. Okay.
We see that tzaraat is a moral disease. It is not a physical medical disease. And this is brought home by 2 psukim in Sefer Devarim. I'm reading from Devarim, chapter 24, verse 8 and 9. It says the Torah, Hishamer b'nega hatzarat. Guard the nega, the mark of the tzaraat, l'shmor mi'od. Guard it very carefully. V'lasot kechol asher yoru etchem hakohanim haLeviyim. You shall do everything as you are instructed by the Kohanic Levites. Kashet tzivitim as I've commanded them, tishmeru lasot, so shall you be careful to do. The pasuk that follows immediately is, Zachor et asher asa Hashem Elokecha leMiriam. Remember what Hashem did to Miriam, Baderech b'tzeitchem miMitzrayim, on the way when you left Mitzrayim. Why the juxtaposition of the Tzarat and Miriam? What happened to Miriam? As you know, Miriam was stricken with leprosy. And why was she Tzarat? Why was she stricken with Tzarat? Because she spoke ill of her brother Moshe. And Rashi points out, from here, the Torah is warning us about speaking Lashon Hara, about gossiping. That one of the results of gossiping is Tzarat. Now we'll take a look at the pasuk that gives us different symptoms of Tzarat, and we'll try to understand each and every one. Adam ki yeh be'or b'saro, se'et o sapachat o ba'eret. Person has in his flesh se'et, or sapachat, or baheret. V'haya be'or b'saro negat tzarat, and there shall be in the skin of his flesh the mark of tzarat. V'huva al Aharon HaKohen, he shall be brought to Aharon the Kohen, o el achad mibanav HaKohanim, or to one of Aaron's sons the Kohanim. The Torah expresses three different kinds of tzarat. One is called se'et, one is called sapachat, and one is called baheret. What are they? Here we need to turn to the Talmud to get a description of each and every one. The word se'et is a white elevated spot. White compared to, the Talmud compares it to clean white wool. Clean white wool. And the Talmud, Sechet Shavuot, Avav Amud Bet, says the word se'et means gavoa. It means high. In other words, it's a swollen spot. This is se'et. Sapachat is a scab, so says the Ibn Ezra, a scab. And the word sapachat is related to the Hebrew word nispach, which means something that's secondary or ancillary, something that is not primary, nispach. And then we have the word baheret. Baheret is a spot, but it's white, but a bright white. Baheret is from the word bahir. Bahir means very clear, bright white mark. That's the baheret. The Midrash does something fascinating. The Midrash associates each one of these three symptoms with a great world empire. The se'et, says the Midrash, is Babylonia. And why is se'et Babylonia? Because Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylonia, made himself into a god, wanted to be worshipped as a god. He erected this huge idol and demanded that everyone bow down and worship this idol. In the book of Daniel, we learn that Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah refused to bow down to the idol. As a result, they were thrown into a fiery furnace and were miraculously saved. So what does se'et symbolize? What the Midrash is telling us is that se'et, this swollen mark, is a sign of arrogance, of hubris, of haughtiness. It's what is called in Hebrew ga'ava. And the source of anger, what makes a person angry? causes a person to be angry is his own ego. When he or she feels that the ego is being bruised, he gets angry. And the Talmud says that one who is angry is an idol worshiper. But whom is the angry person worshiping? No God involved. There's no theocracy involved. What is the God that he's worshiping? The answer is he's worshiping himself. He's worshiping his own ego. That's what he's worshiping. And it's interesting that the Rambam, who speaks at length about the golden mean, the Shvil HaZahav, not to go to an extreme in either direction, he said that there are two exceptions to the rule, and that's anger and humility, or anger and haughtiness, shall we say. When it comes to anger and haughtiness, one must go to the extreme in removing all anger and removing all haughtiness. And the two are intertwined because it is the haughtiness that creates the anger. One of the first king of Israel, not talking about David or Shlomo, not talking about Rechav, I'm talking about the kingdom of Israel, Mamlechet Israel, which broke away from Mamlechet Yehuda. The first king was Yeravam ben Nevat. And Yeravam ben Nevat broke away and established two places of worship, of idolatry, one in Bethel and one in Dan. And what motivated him? Why did he simply break away from the tribe of Yehuda, the tribe of Binyamin? Why did he break away? He did so because Beit HaMikdash was in the tribe of Yehuda and Binyamin. And there's a law that says that no one is permitted to sit in the courtyard in the environs of the Beit HaMikdash, with only one exception, and that is a king from the tribe of Judah. Rechavam, son of Shlomo, son of David, was from the tribe of Yehuda. So Rechavam had the right to sit in the Azara, in the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash. Says Yeravam to himself, if I would come to the Beit HaMikdash, Rechavam would sit and I would have to stand. I would be publicly embarrassed. I don't want to have to go through that embarrassment. I'm going to set up my own places of worship. And this arrogance and haughtiness on the part of Yeravam is what caused a major split, a bifurcation in the 12 tribes, and we ended up with two separate kingdoms, the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Yehuda. The Gemara relates a very fascinating conversation between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Yeravam. It says HaKadosh Baruch Hu grabs Yeravam by the coat. He says to him, Yeravam, why don't you, he says, I, and you, I, and Ben Yishai, the son of Yishai, meaning David HaMelech, Ve'ata, and you, I, Ben Yishai, and you, let us take a walk in Gan Eden. Let's go for a walk in the Garden of Eden. Yeravam's response was, Mi Barosh. Who goes first? Does David go first or do I go first? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, David goes first. He said, if that's the case, I don't want any part of it. Again, this was the arrogance of Yeravam. And as a result, he became, rather than becoming a great hero, which he could have become, he became one of the most infamous one of the most infamous of kings, one of the kings who has no share in the world to come. Sapachat. Sapachat, says the Midrash, is Madai. Madai is media in English, and we usually think of Paras and Madai coming together, Persia and Media. Remember that Ahasuerus was the king of Paras and Madai. There were two empires that were molded into one. And who represents Parasu Madai? None other than the infamous anti-Semite Haman. And the Medrash compares Haman to a nachash, to a serpent. A crawling serpent, a serpent crawling on his belly. What does that represent? Who was Haman? Haman represents a person who gains his power through flattery, through being a sycophant, by being obsequious, by playing up to people in power and trying to gain power himself. He does so because he has a very low self-image. And he wants to find glory, and he'll do anything to get glory. What was his request when the king asked, "What shall be done with the men whom the king favors?" And Haman gave away, revealed his innermost desires. Let that man wear the king's garments, ride on the king's horse. Let it be called out in the streets of Shushan, so shall be done to the man whom the king favors. It was this glory and honor that Haman wanted so desperately. This is the Sapachat. Baheret, says the Midrash, is represented by Yavan, by Greece. Baheret, we said, is the bright white spot, very bright. And that represents beauty. As the Torah says of Yavan, of Greece, Yaf Elokim leyefet. Greece is a symbol of beauty. And we know that the Greeks worshipped beauty. The human body was something to be worshipped. Josephus writes that Jewish young men were not permitted to play in the Olympic Games because they were circumcised. And to the Greek, any kind of mutilation of the body was considered to be offensive, very unaesthetic. And therefore the Jewish men couldn't play, but there were men who underwent plastic surgery in order to be able to play in the Olympic Games. This is Greece. Greece is aesthetica as opposed to etika, aesthetics as opposed to ethics. Now, Judaism is not opposed to aesthetics. In fact, something that is aesthetic, something that's beautiful, is something to be admired. But it has to be in the right context and has to be understood. Take, for example, the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol said of the Kohen Gadol, "V'asita bigdei kodesh li'aron achicha lechavod u'letifaret." You shall make holy clothing, holy vestments for Aaron your brother, which will be for honor and splendor. And we know that the 8 garments worn by the Kohen Gadol were very beautiful, 4 of them containing gold, very beautiful. But what was the purpose of the splendor and the kavod in the garments? The Netziv writes as follows: Lo yachshavu zot l'ramot rucha. Don't think of this as haughtiness or arrogance. Why? because Mishum Hachi Hayu Begadim Letoelet Shaya Beinei Yisrael Lechavod U'Tiferet. It should have a purpose that people will look at the Kohen Gadol and they will see his glory and his splendor. Ve'ivinu mizeh, and from this they will come to understand Ki Chafetz Hashem Bikaro, that Hashem wants him to be honored, V'ra'oi liyot merkava l'Shechina, and that he should be a chariot for the Shechina, for the divine presence. That's our beauty. Our beauty is found in Kedusha and holiness. That's our beauty, not the beauty of the Greeks. So what we have seen from the beautiful interpretation of the Midrash is that the sins that lead to tzarat are threefold. One is a result of arrogance. Secondly, it's a result of sycophancy. And thirdly, it's a result of ostentation. All of these are moral diseases. And we live at a time now where we realize how vulnerable we are, how weak we are, how an invisible enemy is lurking all around us, seeking to destroy us. And we're doing our best to hide from this invisible enemy called the coronavirus. And what we need to do is to look within, to try to weed out those qualities that are not in our favor, that do not enhance us as the Tachlit Habriyah, goal of creation, and try to improve ourselves to be better Jews and better human beings. And we hope and pray that the prophecy of Yechezkel will come very soon, in which he says, in the name of Hashem, V'zarachti aleichem mayim tohorim utahartem. I will sprinkle upon you the pure waters, and you will become pure. We hope and pray that the pure waters of Hashem will cure those who are ill and will restore us to a healthy, normal existence. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Grodner.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Reuven.
Shar koach.
Hi, Joel.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Hi,
Nice.
how's it going?
Baruch Hashem. Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
You too. I'm really glad that you and Rabbi Udrin are doing these learning events through virtually. It's really nice to feel like I'm back in Jerusalem at the Beit Midrash.